Hi guys, I'm Louise Rowe and we're in London's most fashion-forward neighbourhood of Shoreditch, talking to those in the know as part of our new Skype Conversation Series, giving you exclusive access to fashion insiders at the heart of the industry. So where does the fashion industry get their inspiration, and how do you take that spark and transform it into something concrete? Well, I'm about to find out. So joining me today, right here on the sofa, is legendary Catherine Hayward. Welcome.
Thank you.
You are a bit of a ledge. Men's fashion is your bag. I mean, you have made it entirely your own. Your career, you're the fashion director of Esquire UK and Esquire UK's biannual The Big Black Book.
Indeed.
Clients include Mr. Justin Timberlake.
Mr. Justin Timberlake. We've just got back from Lake Como doing George Clooney. It's a hard life.
That's amazing. And then on Skype, I want to welcome the amazing ladies. Calling in from Texas is luxury brands expert and founder of Snob Essentials, Tina Craig. How are you doing, Tina?
I'm great, thank you.
I think we probably got you up in the middle of the night, or certainly very early in the morning. From New York is award-winning jewellery designer and one of my absolute favourites, Pamela Love. Pamela, how are you doing?
I'm good. Good to see you guys.
You too. And all the way from Sao Paulo, Brazil, is fashion blogger and co-founder of Brazilian high street chain 284, Helena Bordon. Welcome, Helena. How are you?
Hi, thank you.
Thanks for joining us. So let's kick off with everyone's first big break into the industry. When was the moment that you thought, this is it? Catherine, we'll start with you.
Well, I had just finished college and I bagged myself an internship at GQ at Condé Nast 20 years ago now, which is aging me. And started off, wasn't quite sure how I was going to start off, wanted to get my first foot on the ladder. An ex-tutor rang me and said, are you interested? And so I was, within 24 hours, I was with them. I was with them, yes.
Unpaid?
I was paid £70 a week, which I was taxed on. So I took home £62 a week.
Wow. Mm-hmm. Tina, how about you?
I literally was right after college and got an internship like you, and I was not paid. I was paid in clothes, and I basically spent a lot of my time making different Xerox copies, because lookbooks back then were not digitized. So I did a lot of that.
Anyone watching who wants to go into the industry, you keep smiling through the tea and the photocopying, because the time will come. I remember the day of doing that all day, every day for weeks and weeks and weeks, and then suddenly you're going to London Fashion Week. There's a brand new designer called Giles Deacon. No one's heard of him yet. And I went backstage and interviewed Linda Evangelista as my first ever interviewee. So it's sort of like those moments are worth all the scrubbing and the tea making. Make good tea, keep smiling. Helena, I'd love to ask you, interestingly, after your success as a retailer, what made you then decide to become a blogger as well?
I think my friends, they were always asking me to give them tips where to go. So every time I would travel, they would tell me, where should I go? And fashion tips also, because my mom works in fashion since she was 18. So I used to go with her for the fashion shows in Milan, Paris. So I was like, I wanted to give everything I know about fashion and travel. So I decided to launch the blog to make it easier.
And Pamela, how did you get started in jewellery design?
Well, I always sort of made jewelry my whole life, my childhood growing up, and I didn't, I wasn't the same path. I didn't get an internship after I graduated from college. I actually went into art and was working as a painting assistant to Francesco Clemente and making jewelry on the side, and somehow that magically turned from one person being interested in buying my jewelry to two people, to a couple stores, to a couple magazines contacting me. And so something that was a hobby I was doing on the side as being a painting assistant turned into a business.
And I want to talk about Francesco for a second. What an iconic artist to be working alongside at the very beginning of your career. Do you think his art influenced your aesthetic for your designs at all?
Oh, absolutely. He was a humongous influence on me and on what I'm interested in as a designer, and he still is an influence for me and a really big part of my life.
I love it. I'm looking at in your room as well. I see a dream catcher, star.
I just noticed that I have a sweater on my desk and that looks terrible.
No, I love it. It's part of the mystique. And everyone sitting here right now has a multitude of skills. Catherine, you're not only fashion director at Esquire, you are a freelance stylist and costume designer. Do you think that having all these different fingers in different pies helps the understanding of the industry as a whole, sort of brings it together?
Absolutely. I mean, on a fashion shoot, I'm the one in control, effectively. I can choose the clothes and how we're going to do it. It's the vibe of the shoot. Whereas, you know, you've got to have a very different discipline when you're working with a director and a huge team of people. So you're much lower down on the pecking order, effectively. So you can kind of do your thing, but you've really got to be respectful to everyone's job.
I'm going to put you on the spot. What's your favourite? If you had to give everything else up except for one of those roles?
It's got to be fashion shoots because you have a degree of control.
George, did you just pick George?
Yes, I did.
I understand your decision. And Tina, as well as Snob Essentials, you are contributing columnist for Vogue China, a correspondent for Weibo, and you were a VJ on MTV Asia. Awesome. How does working across different industries inform your work, do you think?
I did a design collaboration with DKNY. I designed a collection of bags for them. So when I review, I really take into consideration, you know, how this bag, what the construction is. And I also aim to entertain because with my background in the entertainment industry, and then also as a journalist, I try to have that editorial integrity, which I think is really important, especially for bloggers, to retain that voice of authenticity. So it's definitely helped to have, you know, I was always a jack of all trades. And my parents used to say, all you like is fashion, and you like to gossip about fashion, and you talk about fashion, and what are you going to do with your life?
What was the moment when you did actually parlay that into a money-making business, to actually, like we're talking about today, making it concrete? When was the moment?
Well, my best friend and I found ourselves at home with our babies, and I wanted to stay home with the babies, but didn't know what I want. I did not want to just stay home and not work. So at the time, almost 9 years ago, we started the blog. And so that was the moment we realized, oh, we can work while our babies napped. So we worked 2 hours a day, and we monetized the site so early on because we had that business background and degree. And not that you have to, but I feel like you should treat your blog as a business, and you should always take some sort of business class just so you understand how to manage your career.
I think it is key to remember that's 9 years ago. That was a brave new world. It wasn't like now
Yes.
where there's a million
blogging
templates.
Was crazy.
Yeah.
People would say to me, don't tell people you're blogging. No one understands what that is. Blog was literally a 4-letter word.
Yeah.
Nobody liked that word, and it was 2005, early on, and it was, my husband even said, and I was anonymous, he said, you guys should not tell people that you're bloggers. And, you know,
Just keep this on the DL. Well, when I started around then at Vogue TV, people literally said, oh, I don't think anyone's going to watch TV on the web. Pat me on the head. It's not going to take off. Catherine, I'd love to talk to you about new talent. So when you see new talent coming through the door at, say, Esquire, and that, whether it's a designer, a new model, a stylist, what makes that face stand out? And secondly, I think this is quite interesting, do publications have an obligation to nurture talent in the sort of Isabella Blow, Alexander McQueen way? Absolutely.
I mean, it's all about nurturing new talent, because if we don't, then the industry stops. So it's, you know, it's constantly in a state of flux. One of the reasons I got involved with the British Fashion Council's New Gen committee was in order to speak to a lot of the new designers and give them sort of a huge amount of encouragement, because I think you come out of college not necessarily knowing how you're going to build your business, and to have people who've got 10 or 20 years experience in the business can kind of just feed back to them what is needed, rather than just going through this process of being a creative person. You know, it really is a way of kind of guiding them through, you know, a wild forest of difficulties.
Pamela, I'd love to ask you about the Vogue Fashion Fund CFDA. As a twice winner of CFDA, how instrumental has that been in your career?
I think that as a young designer, the CFDA and the Vogue Fashion Fund are so instrumental, at least for me, both on the financial end of things and on the sort of press side of things, the marketing side of things, relationships with key people in the industry who have become business mentors or even business partners. None of these things could have happened without Vogue and without the CFDA. I think that they're so giving and so nurturing to young designers, and I couldn't imagine being where I am today without that sort of support and nurturing from them.
Definitely key. And Helena, you have collaborated on lines with a lot of high-profile figures, including Naomi Campbell. Anyone on your hit list that you'd love to work with next?
Kate Moss. I'm like a big fan. I love her style. It looks like she just got out of bed and she's super stylish. So I would love to do something with her. It's dreaming big, but never know.
Well, there you go. You've put it out there.
Put it out there because actually I should say this is a big plug for Esquire, but she did her very first men's cover for Esquire for the September issue.
Did she?
And everyone told us she'll never do it. She doesn't do that kind of thing. So I think if you kind of start building up these relationships, which is all about relationships effectively, isn't it? Never say never.
So Pamela, is there one piece that you think is the most favourite piece you've ever designed, and who was it for?
I don't have a favorite piece. I feel like my favorite piece changes every single day. But if we're talking about things I've designed specifically for people that are interesting, I one time made a bra and underwear entirely out of rosaries for Lady Gaga, and that was pretty cool.
Amazing. Did you fit her for it?
No, I wish I did, but they just kind of gave me her measurements. We had to make boots also. We had to cover boots in rosary beads.
Wow. Love it.
It was like a full go-go girl outfit that was also very biblical.
As you do, because you're Lady Gaga, so that works.
Yeah.
And Helena, I'd love to talk to you about Brazil. You've been integral there in growing the industry there. Do you think it's easier or tougher now for young Brazilians interested in fashion to make their mark?
I actually think it's easier now because there's a lot of Brazilian brands that are starting to sell abroad, or they're becoming very popular. I went to Le Bon Marché in Paris and I saw a whole area just for Brazilian designers. So I really feel that people are starting to be interested in Brazil. Brazil is growing, and I see Isolda, I see many brands that internationally, it's the brand to be wearing, the brand to buy. So I really think it's easier right now than 5 years ago.
Yeah, and I'm one of those people. So if I can come to Brazil, please, I'm there. Fashion Week, yeah, cool, okay. Tina, what's the key to being commercially successful in fashion, but staying true to your aesthetic and being creative?
It depends on the time of day. I wake up in the mornings and I'm very creative. So I'm I have all these ideas, and I talk to all of my staff through Skype. We have regular Skype meetings. I think it's a good balance to have a partner who has a little more of what you don't have. But I would say probably 60 creative, 40 business for me.
Okay. I thought you were going to say the opposite, because I'm kind of business in the morning with my coffee. As soon as it gets to martini o'clock, that's when I get really creative. I think.
It's when the ideas get flowing.
I think so. Always the best ones with a cocktail. Okay, ladies, a quick fire round to finish up this amazing Skype session. So, Catherine, I will start with you.
Okay.
You look pressured. Who is your fashion icon?
Anne Bancroft in The Graduate.
So fast. Favourite childhood outfit?
It was a 1984 sleeveless black boiler suit amidst a group of girls wearing pastel rah-rah skirts. I stood out.
Amazing. I love that from the beginning. Pamela, I'm going to go to you next. Who is your fashion icon?
That's a hard one. I'd have to say Bob Dylan in the 1970s.
That's an awesome answer. Favourite childhood outfit?
I had a long sleeve, full length, floral Betsy Johnson leotard with a matching chiffon skirt that I wore with bedazzled black cowboy boots.
Now, I thought Catherine's answer was good, but you just took it to a whole new level. Helena, coming to you next. Quick fire round. Yeah. Who is your fashion icon?
Kate Moss.
And your favourite
I absolutely love her.
Your favourite childhood outfit?
I used to have this jumpsuit, which was I would grow and I would still want to wear it, so it's getting shorter and shorter and shorter. And my mom would tell me, don't wear it, but I loved it. Very colorful.
And then you made the crop trouser fashionable.
Yes, exactly.
And Tina, last but not least, who is your fashion icon?
My grandmother, she grew up in the 1920s, 30s Shanghai and went from being very wealthy to escaping China to Taiwan and having to make do and understanding that her style, you know, continued even if she didn't have the means for the fashion. So she was very inspiring.
And your favorite childhood outfit?
Oh my gosh, there were so many, but I think blue and white checkered Vans with these Guess jeans I had that flipped over, and they were bright blue on the remember when you would wear the different colors? And it's like Adam and the Ants shirt.
You were a little tomboy.
I was.
Love it.
I had 3 brothers, so Adam Ant was everything to me.
Ladies, it's been a pleasure, truly. I've loved the anecdotes, the advice, and I hope everyone watching has really taken it in as well. Some fantastic, wonderful wealth of experience and really, really great talking to you. So thank you. We hope that's inspired you to turn your creative dreams into reality. There'll be more opportunities to access fashion industry nuggets, so keep an eye out for the Skype collaboration project to get insight and advice. Bye.